So today on Remote Control, is with great sadness that I have to talk about the passing of one of my personal heroes, Mean Gene Okerlund. For many of my generation, Mean Gene was the greatest interviewer in wrestling history. A little bit of his background: he started as a disc jockey in Omaha, Nebraska, before moving to Minneapolis. Uh, Probably late 60s, and started working in the front office. And he was eventually recruited by Vern Gagne for AWA. That was the American Wrestling Association. Now, for 14 years, he was the top interviewer and presenter and announcer for the AWA, which at the time was just as strong, if not stronger, than his future employer, WWF. Now, Mean Gene's interview style was a combination of presentation, promotion, and reaction. He was a very ad lib guy. He would talk to the wrestlers, put them over, and he would also be involved in, not say skits, but in ways to present the wrestlers in a way different than just a standard stand-up. The two biggest interviews that he's known for the AWA, kind of promote his later career in WWF. He once had an interview with Andre the Giant where he basically encouraged Andre to show the public how big Andre was, and Andre, in reaction, took his hand and covered Mean Gene's face with his complete paw. Very dramatic. And of course, the infamous interview with Mad Dog Vachon. Now, Mad Dog was probably the greatest Quebec wrestler of the modern era, and he, in the skit, Jerry Blackwell had put him out for 2.5 years, either kayfabe or real, of wrestling after being injured in a match. And Mean Gene allegedly found Mad Dog building a coffin in his basement area, and Mean Gene basically said, why are you building a coffin? What's going to happen here? And Mad Dog basically presented a very, very coherent shoot, saying that when I was working down in the cold, deep mines, I came up with this idea of taking out Blackwell by putting him in this coffin. Classic. But by 1984, Mean Gene, like many of the future WWF wrestlers who moved from AWA to the big federation, decided also to make the jump. He was basically there to not only help with Vince McMahon's expanded programming, including such shows as All American Wrestling and Tuesday Night Titans. He was there also to give legitimacy to the federation from a broadcasting standpoint. At the time, Vince was doing a lot of the play-by-play. Gorilla Monsoon was involved as well, but he needed somebody to really do the interviews to put people over. And ironically, Mean Gene had worked quite a bit with Hulk Hogan when Hulk was in the AWA when he almost won the championship. And by coming over to WWF at the same time, Mean Gene and Hulk Hogan were sort of like an unofficial team where if Hogan tried to say something, Mean Gene was put in charge of trying to present it. It was a great relationship. Let me tell you something, Mean Gene was the big tagline for WWF for years. And he also did the same with Randy Savage, because as crazy as Randy Savage was on a mic, when Mean Gene was controlling him, it was coherent. It was amazing. Now, from a Canadian perspective, I can tell you this. Imagine this there. If you've never heard of Mean Gene before, can you imagine an announcer for wrestling, a combination of Danny Gallivan, Bob Cole, and Jim Carrey, and the dry humor of Seth Rogen, all rolled into one. The man was a mental giant. He was so good at what he did. And as a journalist, I can appreciate the fact that he was the first wrestling journalist, really, the one to crossover. Radio and TV background, he made wrestling seem legitimate from a media standpoint. If you have time today, there's many programs on WWE's networks, YouTube, various DVDs. Take time and look at Mean Gene's greatest work. To me, his best years were AWA between 79 and 83. But again, the Hogan Savage, especially feud with Bobby the Brain Heenan, not say feud, but two mental giants going at it quite interesting. But hearing Mean Gene died on January 2nd really devastated me because I've been very fortunate. I've met a lot of the Golden Age WWE wrestlers, presenters, managers. Always thought I could beat Mean Gene, and it's my displeasure, or not say displeasure, but by loss to not beat him, because he was the man. So Mean Gene, who once said, possibly, and I can't really quote it correctly, he said when he died he wanted to be buried upside down so that the people who didn't like him could visit his grave and look down and kiss his ass. Well, the legacy is there. Mean Gene never kissed anybody's ass. If anything, Mean Gene basically ran his own path to success. We'll miss you, brother. As we like to say in WWE, you got the belt. Have a good afternoon. Bye.